As great of a state California is, why did California lose nearly 700,000 people the last 3-4 years? And on top of that, 352 businesses left California, 11 of them in the Fortune 1000, 61 of the businesses over 100 employees. Then we dug up some numbers here. We're like, what side is California voting? We noticed the last 7 presidential elections, they voted blue. But prior to that, 6 consecutive presidential election, California voted red. That's 6 in a row. So then we broke it down by counties. We went and looked at different counties: LA County, San Diego County, Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, to see if all of these states are blue. Are they on the left? One of the counties, you're not going to believe which county this is, 19 out of the last 22 presidential elections since 1936, they voted red. They voted Republican. What? How's that possible? Then you break it down and you see that cars, they're saying don't lock up the car anymore. Leave the windows down because they're breaking into the window. If they're going to steal it, let them steal it. You know, people are saying don't drive to work because you may get robbed. There's drugs on the streets in the state of, in San Francisco. Regulation we looked at. Ranking for the best small business we looked at. So many different data we're going to go and look into right now. But there's a reason why people are leaving California. This is not accidental. We're going to get into it today. Okay, so let's get right into it. If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. California, beautiful state, incredible weather, lots of great things to do there, but they're getting their asses handed to them. First of all, I'm going to go into politics here in a minute, but let me first kind of give you where they rank business-wise. So here's an article from chiefexecutive.net. They rank the best and worst states for business. If you look at the list based on different golf scores they have, at the top in 2023, it's Texas, then Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina, Arizona, Indiana, Georgia, South Carolina, then Nevada, Utah. At the bottom, top 50 states. You ready? Number 50, California. 49, New York. Then Illinois, Jersey, Oregon, Washington, Massachusetts, Hawaii, Connecticut, Alaska, Minnesota. Newsom always brags about where his GDP is. Look at us. We're the 4th or the 5th biggest economy in the world. There's a reason why we make so much revenues. That could be true, but the way to look at it is the following. Newsom became a governor, 3-4 years ago after he took over Jerry Brown, I believe. So imagine a company you built. Steve Jobs builds the company. Then it's Tim Cook, let's just say, okay? So different CEOs come in. And this company is now a $3 trillion company. And then you show up. Your name is Newsom. And all of a sudden, the company loses 700,000 customers and the top line revenue drops a little bit and you're at the bottom of the list for companies to work for. That doesn't mean you're not a big company. You could still be a multi-trillion-dollar company, but you've hurt the company. So Newsom as a CEO has destroyed that state the last few years purely based on data. So let's look at some areas on what caused this thing to happen. So look, I've been in the financial industry since 9/11, the day before 9/11, and I've owned stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, crypto, gold, you name it, I've owned it. But the one thing that's very important part of my portfolio all these years is gold. I love having a percentage of my net worth in gold that I have access to in case of many different things. A few facts you need to know about gold. Number one, the gold market cap is $11.8 trillion. Since 2000, the compound annual growth rate for gold has been 9.24%, and during times of high inflation, 3% plus, has been 15.35%. Now, those are just some numbers for you, but there's some other benefits to add gold to your portfolio. Number one, hedge against inflation. Number two, results showed recently that 93% of central banks are working on a CBDC. So this means what? That could be a manipulated currency that they own. If you own gold, it's a non-duplicatable asset. You're now hedging against CBDC taking place. Number three, a potential cyber threat. If it happens, you don't have access to your money, you don't have access to your accounts, well, you have access to your hard physical gold. Number four is anonymous. No one knows you have that gold. And last but not least, diversification. That's why we chose to work with our new sponsor, American Hartford Gold. If you have retirement funds that you cannot afford to lose, American Hartford Gold will ship physical gold or silver directly to your door. Also, if you have retirement funds that you can't afford to lose, now is the time to call American Hartford Gold, a precious metal dealer you can trust. They have the finest products, amazing customer service, and a buyback commitment. They've earned a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. Tell them I sent you and they'll send you up to $5,000 worth of free silver on your first order. So click on the link in the description or call 866-939-6984. Again, 866-939-6984. On this list here of regulations, which states have the most regulated states in America by number of restrictions 2022? Guess what state is at the top with the most regulations for businesses? You ready? California, 403,000. Number 2 is New York, 298. 3 is Jersey, 286. Illinois is 4th, 279. And then it's Texas, 273. But California is an overly regulated state. And by the way, when you look at the top industries most regulated in California, ready? Number 1, insurance. What industry do you think I'm a part of the last 20-something years? Insurance. Then it's petroleum. Then it's coal products and manufacturing. And then it's paper manufacturing. These industries are heavily regulated. You want to know what the least regulated industries are? Let me tell you the least regulated industries. Social assistance. Surprising, like welfare, entitlement programs. Number 2, waste management. Then it's remediation and educational services. Low regulation. The other guys heavily regulated. Okay, Pat, we get your point. Very much a regulated state, but what's the big deal with that? What else can you tell us outside of that? No problem. Let me tell you what happened to you with a couple companies. You ever heard of Geico? You know that gecko that walks around and he does these funny commercials? And what Geico decided to do? They just shut down their office in California. Not one. They just closed all their offices. We don't want to do business in California. What do you mean? We're out. We're leaving California. Geico left California? Yes. Who else? Progressive stopped advertising in California. State Farm is no longer taking calls for quotes in California. You need to go to an office. Insurance professionals from California say most companies are now extremely reluctant to underwrite new policies, specifically on the auto insurance side. California has a government-controlled insurance system that distorts the free market. So now, we've talked a few different things here, but you may say, Pat, I still get it, but, I still think it's the greatest, place to be. I'm going to give you another data here. The last 3 years, 2019, 21, 2020, 21, 22, okay? The top 10 highest tax states in America, California, New York, Illinois, top 10 highest tax states in America lost $391 billion of AGI. That's adjusted gross income. They lost 391. You want to know what the crazy stat is here? The bottom 10 states, like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, guess what they picked up in those 3 years? You ready? Guess the number. You're going to get it right. The same exact amount. Let me say this again. The top 10 highest tax states lost 391 of AGI. The bottom 10 gained 391 billion in AGI. What does that tell you? These guys simply took their block of business and they went here. That's kind of like you working at Morgan Stanley Dinwiddie. You got $1 billion of money under management. You took your billion and your 100 clients and you went where? Goldman Sachs. That's what happened. They left the top 10 states. America is saying, we don't want to be in states with high regulation and high taxes. We're going to go elsewhere. And guess what Florida, Texas, Tennessee, and other places said? Come on down. We'll take you. Texas took Rogan. Texas took Musk. Texas took Toyota. Florida took a bunch of them. Tennessee took a bunch of them. No problem. And California kept saying, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're okay. We're California. We're New York. We're this. And this keeps happening over and over and over again. So let me give you some specific stats here. You know, when I said earlier, they lost over 61 companies with over 100 employees. You know those companies that we said 61 companies with 100 plus employees? Where did they go? 27 of them. You know where they went? Texas, 44%. Arizona got 8% of them. Then Colorado, then Carolina, then Florida, then Tennessee. They went from here all the way down to Florida. Easy part is what? To just go to Texas, which they did. 27 of the 61 with 100 plus employees moved their companies to Texas. All right, so let's go a little bit deeper. California did something. It's been happening for a while. They've been trying to do this, the whole thing with Uber laws. Well, these are independent contractors, but we should treat them like employees. Uber should treat them as full-time agents. We try to do this with some salespeople. It's called the Assembly Bill 5. Legislation was signed into law by Governor Newsom in September of 2019, requiring companies that hire independent contractors to reclassify them as employees. Can you imagine an Uber driver drives 5 hours a week? They want him to be an employee getting benefits from a company like Uber. Uber can't afford to do this. So these regulations, when they did, guess who started complaining? The independent contractors like, don't do this. I want my job. I don't want Uber to leave the state. I don't want these insurance companies to leave the state. I want to keep selling as a part-time individual working for Uber or Lyft. So California's law got the independent contractors who vote Democrat to say, listen, leave this one alone. I like working 10 hours a week for Uber. I don't want them to leave the state. So they kind of backed off and they're like, whoa, we're losing our own people that don't like this idea. What about if we kind of create this ABC, worker is free from control and direction in the performance of services, and the workers performing work outside of the usual course of the business of the hiring company, and the workers customarily engage in an independently established trade, occupation, or business. They kind of are like trying to say, well, we're controlling it. But we're not, because these people don't like it. Leave them alone. They want to be kind of left alone as an independent contractor. That's one policy that made businesses to say, if you're doing it now, odds are you're eventually going to find a way to enforce this. I better leave now before you do something with it. You ready for the next one? The trucking industry. I got a lot of friends in California in the trucking industry. Ready for what they just announced? Effective January 1st, 2024, any trucks registered on or after January 1st, 2024 must be zero emissions. Zero emissions? That's in 4 months. California's truck ban requires that about 55% of delivery vans and small trucks, 75% of buses and larger trucks, and 40% of tractor trailers and other big rigs be fully electric by 2035. By 2045, gas and diesel trucks will be outright banned from being sold in California. Absolutely banned. Can you imagine, like, the state says absolutely banned in the state of California? Now you may say, well, Pat, that's a good idea. Climate change. I'm in LA. I see how dark it is. This is a good thing. The sky is dark. The clouds are dark. Isn't this a good thing? Are you anti making the climate cleaner? Do you know what it takes to build electric cars and how much of the climate it hurts to build? Have you looked at what they do to the people that you are against them, working them like sweatshops? Have you looked into that stuff? So that's already a lot of work to force for us to go in this direction. Going to be very problematic in the state of California, but fine, no problem. Let's go to the next one. Gas-powered tool ban. AB 1346 will require the state to adopt regulations around these gas-powered tools by July 1st of 2022 and ban their sale by the start date of 2024. Moving forward, you can't buy a gas-powered tool ban in 2024. How crazy is that? That's California for you. Next one is wild. So I had a guy that came to me. We're consulting for this client that runs 10 restaurants nationwide. He does around $40 million a year. And he's asking, what do I do in the state of California? So let me tell you what they're doing to restaurant owners and restaurant workers that's costing these guys a lot of money. So fun fact, California will establish a 10-member fast food sector council tasked with establishing standards on minimum wages, maximum working hours, training, and other working conditions applicable to industry workers. The council would raise the minimum wage to $22 an hour in 2023 and up to 3.5% annually after that. Special authority specifically authorizes fast food restaurant workers to bring causes of action for discharge, discrimination, or retaliation for exercising rights established by the Fast Recovery Act. So guess what that does? If you're running a fast food business, you're like, oh my God, what do I do? Okay, so if I pay them $22 an hour, that means that going from a minimum wage of $7.20 or maybe $10 an hour to now $22. So whatever I was charging for the food, a burger is going to go from $2 to $4, which I have to pass that cost over to customers that they got to pay in California. Or someone's going to say, honestly, it's just not worth me doing business in California. Do people realize what the margins are in restaurants? 3, 4, 5%? These guys are not making a lot of money. And running a restaurant, you know how hard it is to run a restaurant? Have you ever had a family run restaurant in your family? You ever worked there? How annoying and hard that job is? You want to make it harder for them? They're going to leave your state, is what they're going to do. But no problem. You may say, Pat, not a big deal. We'll tolerate that. Great. Let's look at some other things. Highest tax rates, individual income by state. Guess who's the highest? Number one, 13.3%. But you may say, Pat, I don't have a problem paying the 13.3 because the weather is perfect here. Great. How high are the sales taxes in your state? California, top 10 is number 8 at 8.82. How about corporate income tax? California, top 6 or 7 at 8.84%. How about electricity bill when you look at by states? You ready? Look at California where they're ranked. Look at the color, okay? If you look at the top, navy blue is the lowest, and it goes to blue, yellow, orange, red. Look at red. Hot red, California, electricity bill. What if we look at median home values? Look at California, navy blue, $522,000. The only ones ahead of California more expensive is Hawaii, $638, and you got DC at $606. How about taxes on gasoline? Where's California rank? What do you think? California is so competitive, they decided to take number 1 on this list here. Per gallon. You know how much they charge for tax? Ready? 65.1 cents. It's the highest in America. The lowest is Alaska. By choice, it's only 8.95. Yet California is 6.5 times higher. So this is all economy. You may say, Pat, I don't care about economy stuff. I want socially. You know, I just want to raise my kids in a place that I'm comfortable with. No problem. Let's talk about social issues. Senate Bill 107, September of 2022, Newsom signed this into law, blocking states with anti-trans laws from prosecuting families who seek gender-affirming care in California, making it the first trans sanctuary state. If you want to be part of the first trans sanctuary state, California is a perfect home for you. Next, Assembly Bill 5, the Safe and Supportive School Act would mandate that teachers and credentialed staff who serve public school pupils in grades 7 through 12 take an online training course in LGBTQ cultural competency. Again, if that's important to you, California is a perfect home for you. And by the way, just so you know, I have a bunch of others that I can read to you, a bunch of other bills that if you want to entertain yourself, you can find them everywhere. I'm not going to go through all this stuff. I think you get the point. But how do we get here? Because like I said to you earlier, one county, okay, one of the top 5 biggest counties in California, the last 22 presidential election, 19 times they voted Republican. In California, what? In California. So, and in the last 7 elections, they've all voted for Democrats, but prior to that, 6 straight, California voted red Republican. How do we get here? So if you look at this chart, here's what you'll notice, okay? Democrats currently hold a 60-18 supermajority in the 80-seat California State Assembly. And it's been majority like that since about 1996. But if you look at this chart from 92 to 2022, look how in 1994 it was once red. In 1994, Pete Wilson ran the Save Our State initiative, which got Republicans to lose a ton of the Democrats. Why? Because nearly 40% of Californians are Hispanic, and they sat there and said, what is this guy doing? 40% of the population is us. Reds, Republicans are against us. We can't vote for something like this. I was in high school. The biggest conversation in high school was INS is going to come get you. INS is going to come get you. That's around the same time I was in high school. So Pete Wilson had a reputation of treating Hispanics and illegal immigrants harshly. He put forward Prop 187, which denied all public services to illegal immigrants and forced all state employees to immediately report illegal immigrants to the Immigration and Naturalization Service for deportation. Immigration Naturalization Service, INS, for deportation. And California, having one of the largest Hispanic population in America, 40%, I think Texas at 47%, they associated Republicans with being anti-Hispanic, not for them. So they said, we're voting on the other side. Okay, so this leads me to the top 5 counties in the state of California. Number 1 being LA County, 9.7 million. Then it's San Diego, then Orange County, then Riverside, then San Bernardino. Which of these counties do you think 19 out of 22 last elections voted on the red? I want you to guess. Let's go through it. Here we go. First one, LA County. When you look at LA County, notice what you see on the left. It shows all the years, 1936, all the way down to 2016. I have the 2020 results as well. I'll give it to you. But if you notice, all the check marks are blue. You see a couple reds, 6 reds over there, which means in LA County, last 22 elections, 6 times has been red, 16 times has been blue. So LA County goes to the Democrats. Now, next one, second largest, San Diego County. If you look at San Diego County, for the last 22, 14 out of 22 went red. By the way, if you look at the consecutive red, there was a point where 14 out of 15 presidential elections, San Diego voted on the right, San Diego. And for the last 4, it's been on the blue. Okay, next one. Ready? Orange County, 19 out of 22 red. 19 out of 22 red. There's a lot of great pockets in Orange County, Manhattan Beach, Newport, some areas you can go to where there's a lot of people that are on that side. So OC, for some of you that are wondering about California or thinking about staying there, you may want to go find a place in OC there. Next one, Riverside County, which was kind of surprising. Did you know 15 out of 22 elections they voted red? Riverside County, 15 out of 22? Yep, that's what they did. 15 out of 22 voted red. And last but not least, San Bernardino. 12 out of the last 22, which means over 50%. So there are counties in California who are sitting there saying, listen, man, we are not for what these guys are doing. We are fully against it. And those counties, if you're somebody that's watching and saying, I have no desire to leave California, I totally get it. If you're not, figure out a way to make some change because the current policies are destroying your state. If you're watching and saying, I don't think it's going to change the next 10 years, and I got a kid that's 6 years old right now, by the time it changes, my kid's already 16 years old, they could indoctrinate him. I wouldn't take the risk if I were you. I would start door knocking, talking to my husband or my wife and saying, hey, let's look at Tennessee. Let's go to Texas. I would spend the next 4 weekends going to a different state each weekend, go to Texas, go to Tennessee, Nashville, go to Florida, go to Nevada, go to these different markets next 8 weekends, next 6 weekends. And I say, babe, we have family here. We're going to go to Houston. We're going to go to Dallas. We're going to go to Miami. We're going to go to Jackson. We're going to go to Nashville. Pick and choose. But if you're staying, do your fight. If you're leaving, start looking at this. Why? Because bad policies have consequences, and California is so arrogant about it that they don't think anyone's going to do anything because they don't believe you have the guts and the courage to leave. They think they have you locked in and you're afraid to leave. That's what they think about you, California. They don't think you have the courage to leave. There's a word for people like that. Newsom thinks you're that, just so you know. I don't mean to offend you. I'm just telling you. That's how they're playing with you. They say, I dare you. Go ahead, make a move. And most of you are not. Okay? So either get involved in politics, either move to a better county, either do something about it, or go to a different state, especially if you have young kids right now, because it doesn't look like this thing's going to change anytime soon. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoyed this video, there's another video we did on DC. Wait till you see what they're doing in DC. It's absolutely crazy. If you've not seen it, click here to watch it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.